My name's David Caldwell, and with almost 2 decades of experience in the Portland metro area real estate market and a passion for data-driven insights, I'm here to bring you the latest trends, advice, and stories from the world of real estate. Whether you're buying, selling, or just love staying informed about the market, this podcast is your one-stop source for expert insights and personal perspectives. So let's dive in and ask the all-important question: how's the Portland real estate market? We are back to talk about boring and yet informative things about the Portland housing market. My name's David Caldwell. I'm with Krista, Britton. Like always, she's in her laundry room. I'm at my office, but we're going to talk about what happened in the first quarter of the Portland housing market. We're going to talk about mortgage rates, new listings, pending sales, average sales price, all these fun and exciting things, but things that are really important for you to know if you're thinking about buying or selling a house or just want to stay informed on what's happening in the market. So let's start with the average sales price, because that's what everybody wants to know. So I'm going to give some details, and then we're going to talk about some observations.
All right. What is the average sales price, David? Tell me.
When we look at the average sales price year to date, January, February, March average, the average sales price in the Portland metro area was $578,800. Now, one thing that's important to know when we look at that is the average sales price over the last 12-month average is $600,800. So we are a little bit lower than we were the last 12 months as an average. But when we look at the first quarter, that was a 2% increase from the same time last year. So we do have values trending in the right direction. If you're a homeowner or value home ownership, the right direction would be home values are looking up versus last year where we had a 2% decline in the average sales price. Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about pricing real quick, Krista, because you just closed a couple buyers last week. Let's just talk about those buyers' experience in the market when looking at homes. Were they looking at homes with price reductions? Were they looking at mostly new homes? Were you able to negotiate with those sellers? What did that look like?
Yeah, so in both instances for the closings I had last week, we were able to negotiate the price down. It was not a multiple offer situation. The homes had been sitting. In one case, one had been sitting for like 10 days. The other has been sitting a little bit longer. And we went in, and with the numbers, we were able to say, hey, we got a price reduction on both. And then we were able to get repairs done. One was dramatically, I think one we got for $35,000 under a list, and the other we got like for 10, right? But still, the buyers were able to come in, and we had a normal back and forth with a normal inspection period and a very normal dialogue on repairs.
And I think normal's the key word, because I think there's still a little bit of like COVID hangover going on in the housing market where sellers still want multiple offers over asking price, no repair, people standing in line. And let's be honest, that some people have that experience in the marketplace. Most people right now are not. But a normal transaction for buyers and sellers, if we look at the paperwork that we use, a normal experience would be there might be some back and forth on price. There's probably going to be some back and forth on repairs because condition wasn't what someone expected. I had a buyer close their house on Friday where we negotiated off the list price in the beginning, and then we found a rather large roof repair, roof replacement to be exact. The seller isn't doing that roof replacement prior to the close of escrow, but they did credit the buyer enough where they could take care of it post escrow, which is a great outcome for a buyer, because if that new roof was on the house at the beginning of the transaction, the value of that home would be more, not less. It's likely that we wouldn't have gotten the same value on that house for the buyer if they would have had to go in and negotiate on a house that had a new roof, but now they're going to own a house that has a new roof post-close. So we're really excited about that. With all that being said, the average sales price right now in the Portland metro area is $578 when we look year to date. I would expect as we go into the second and third quarter, as we get into the months of the year where some of the larger, more family style, 4,000 square foot style homes sell, that we will see that increase, but obviously that's going to be dependent on mortgage rates. So let's talk a little bit about mortgage rates. Do you want me to start, Krista, or do you want to go first?
You start, David.
So in the beginning of the year, a lot of people in our profession, a lot of mortgage brokers were talking about that we were going to have 3 to 6 rate cuts. Rates are going to be in the 5s by the end of the year. And as the year goes on, that looks less and less likely. In fact, as of Friday, the average interest rate was 7.3%. What's 7.3% look like? Well, if you were going to buy a $600,000 house with a 7.3% interest rate where you put 20% down or $120,000, we'll pretend like you have $500 a month for your taxes, that would give you a payment of almost $3,800 a month. And that doesn't include homeowners insurance. And that doesn't include if the property had an HOA. So we're looking at a $600,000 house with 20% down, having a payment be pretty close to $4,000 a month. And if you've watched any of these conversations we've had, it's pretty hard to have a robust real estate market when the average person in the market is spending $4,000 a month on their average payment. So that's something that we're going to have to pay close attention to is, do rates stay above 7%? Do we get back to where they're just slightly below? Are interest rate buy downs still going to be a big thing that we experience this year? If 2023 taught us anything, is you can't have a robust housing market with 7% interest rates. We're also going into the time of year where new listings have a tendency to pick up. If interest rates stay above 7%, it's unlikely we're going to have a lot of buyers in the marketplace buying. So that's my take on interest rates, right? We've been saying it so far this year. You can't have a robust real estate market in the Portland metro area where interest rates average above 6.5% even. Doesn't mean a buyer can't have success. Doesn't mean a seller can't have success. Just means we're not going to have a lot of people buying and selling.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to affordability, right? We're going to see affordability everyone's going to have to wait. Or, like you said, people are just, plans change. We just wait until it's more affordable because we're not seeing prices drop dramatically enough for these interest rates to make that much of a difference. So it's just people are holding steady at that point. And that's what we saw a lot last year. And when interest rates did come down a little bit this year, we saw some more movement. I know my first quarter was a little bit busier just because also I think people have made their peace with, hey, we're not going to be seeing under 3% again. Like if you were holding out, you missed that opportunity. This is where we're at now. So I do think the consumer has become a little bit more like, all right, this is where we are.
Well, in the last 30 years, we've averaged closer to where we are today than those lower numbers. And I do think that, you had said we have to wait for affordability to come back. Something I think about a lot right now is it might not come back. Affordability, the Portland metro area hasn't been truly affordable for most people for a long time.
Correct.
Now it's just even more so unaffordable. The question is, do we get back to a marketplace where we transact 30,000 transactions a year? Or are we just in a housing market now where we have 6 and 7% interest rates where only 20,000 people transact a year? Do people stay in their homes longer? And is there more remodeling that occurs? Because there are so many people that have a sub 5% interest rate, which seems very unlikely that we're going to see an interest rate like that anytime soon. I often think, what happened to my marry the house, date the rate people? Like, where'd they all go?
Really? I still feel like I'm seeing that back out in droves now because the interest rate hasn't come down. Now the people are doubling down on that.
Yeah, but people are saying it, but it's like it seems really out of reach because there could be this scenario where we have a higher interest rate environment. Yeah. So, at this point, now I think it looks like maybe there's going to be 2 cuts to the Fed funds rate. Obviously, that doesn't directly correlate with mortgage rates, but they've been dancing with each other. My guess, if I remember right, was that we were going to have interest rates still be above 6.5% this year. Wall Street, basically, that was their consensus. It's early in the year. It's only April, but we'll see how much that changes. So let's go move to new listings. So year to date in the Portland metro area, we've had 6,500 and 13 new listings come to the market. In the last 5 years, that is the second lowest. So we barely exceeded where we were last year. And if we look at this on a 30-year timeline, we still have a really like a 30-year low of new listings come to the market. If you're a seller, let's talk to sellers real quick, then we'll talk to buyers. When you only have about 2,100, 2,500 listings come to the market, as an average, if you have a really special house, and everyone thinks their home is special, but a truly special house and great condition and a great neighborhood and a great floor plan, you are still going to win in this housing market. Mm-hmm. There is a really big lack of saleable inventory coming to the market. Krista, what would you say to sellers?
I would say exactly what you said. Right now, when a special property, and in my mind, I've got a lot of sellers we got a lot of those baby boomers out there right now, and they're downsizing and they're wanting those one levels. So finding a nice one level home on a good lot with a good floor plan updated, those are going quick, right? So so something special that you're not seeing a lot of that's dialed in, you are possibly seeing those multiple offer situations or the full price.
Now let's talk some dangers to sellers right now. I mean, the big danger to you if you're a seller is you are seeing a lot of price reductions still. Mm-hmm. So mispricing a home, coming out too hot, staying at a price for too long, mm-hmm. and allowing your listing to become stale because good inventory is still selling quickly. The stale inventory really looks to be the inventory that isn't selling. And if we look last year, again, we talked about this a lot, 30,000 homes come to the market, 21,000 actually sell. We are likely to see a repeat with a big gap like this year, and pricing makes the difference on success or staying put.
It's really difficult if you come out and you overprice and you stay at that for too long. And then you're looking at days on market. I made an offer yesterday for some clients and a house has been sitting there for 150 days. We did not come in at full price, not even close. And those sellers are not happy, but they have a product that's been sitting. And if they would have priced appropriately or done their price adjustment sooner, we wouldn't have people lowballing them like that. They put themselves in that position, unfortunately. And some people have to learn the hard way.
And it might not even be lowballing. It's like paying market. Their market expectations versus what they have out aren't the same thing.
Yeah, because what happens is you start chasing the market down also. So if you would have priced right, you could have gotten that number. Well, now you're below that number because now the market has shifted. You've got that, the black eye in a beauty pageant. It's you're chasing it down.
Yep. Yeah. And I think this is the opportunity for buyers, right? Because when buyers look at the fact that we have about a 30-year low of new listings come to the market, that shouldn't sound very appealing to them, right? Because a buyer should want options. Mm-hmm. Well, what a buyer has today is options of inventory sitting on the market or being listed longer. Doesn't mean it's bad inventory. Those days on market are the thing that becomes the ability for you to negotiate. Yeah. And we have started the year with the highest levels of inventory that we've had in some time.
Yeah. So for buyers out there, just because you see something with days on market, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad house or the wrong house. It could be that it's been overlooked. It had an unfortunate sale fail. And so people are just passing it over. So that might be one you want to go look at and double down on, because I've gotten a lot of buyers who have scored on some good houses just because people overlook them.
The house I just had clients purchase in Tualatin had been on the market since October. It is a great house, and they got a great value on it. And we're stoked. I'm so happy for them. And I know, 7 to 10 years from now, when they decide to sell, that they're going to make a killing on it. So let's go to pending sales. So year to date, pending sales, we've had 5,189. Now that does represent a 5-year low. And one of the things that we have to remember is last year we didn't even average 2,000 pending sales a month. And we're coming into the months of the year where we're probably going to see around 3,000 homes come to the market. So if we think about what we were just talking about and how that's going to correlate in pending sales, this is really important. If you are a home seller, what you need to know is if maybe you're not that top-notch inventory, that we are moving into a time period of the year where there's going to be at least 1,000 more homes coming to the market each month if we use historical context versus what we expect on the pending sales side, which is around 2,000. pending sales a month. It could be challenging for a lot of home sellers, given the fact that, interest rates have really stayed above 7%. I mean, we have not seen that interest rate relief that people were hoping for in 2024. So far, I'm thinking that we're going to have a repeat of spring, summer last year, which is lots of listings coming to the market, people testing higher pricing, and a lot of people being disappointed by their lack of activity because there are just less buyers in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
No, I definitely agree. There's a lot of the same feeling that we had last year. We're not seeing the same changes that we were not promised, but supposedly going to see this year. One of the things that I'm interested in is, with it being an election year, if we're going to start seeing, when we get closer to the elections, if we're going to see the interest rates come down, if that's going to make any difference. But also, a lot of people get nervous in the election year because there's a lot of uncertainty. So that might not even make enough of a difference for people to want to go out and buy, depending on, consumer confidence. Yeah. So it's a lot of a wait and see game.
I have a tendency to think that if there's pent-up buyer demand and all of a sudden we have rates at 6.25%, that the market's going to be really busy regardless of who gets elected, because people still need to move. Yeah. And, I have family members that, are definitely going to move out of the country, right? If someone gets elected. And they were definitely going to move out of the country before and didn't. And, those people might not buy homes, but
would you say the majority? Would you say that's a smaller percent of the population that people, depending on who's elected, would or would not buy?
Affordability is going to drive the market, and people's plans often don't change. They just get delayed, right? And if we end up in a situation where we have 6-something percent, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4% interest rates, I think that's going to be enough to get people off the fence and moving, right? And look at that as an opportunity. So closed sales, we don't always go ham on closed sales, but closed sales year to date, 5,189, the lowest we've had in a 5-year period. Surprise, surprise. It's in line with what we were talking about pending sales wise. To me, this is what defines a robust housing market or not, right? Are lots of people buying and selling? And they are not, right? That does make the circumstances more challenging if you're a buyer or seller, but within the challenges is always where the opportunities lie. I mean, there are record sales being had on the high side, and there are sellers that are pissed off and discouraged by the pricing they took for their house. Even though if we zoom way out, most sellers selling right now are cashing out tremendous amounts of equity because people have never been so equity rich in this country. So, 5,189 closed sales year to date for a metro area of more than 1 million people. I mean, that is pretty eye-opening when you look at it that way. There are not a lot of people buying and selling real estate right now. Any thoughts on that, Krista?
No, I agree. It's very much, we have a smaller pool of people that are able to afford. I do still feel like we're seeing a lot more cash. I'm seeing a lot of people who are going to downsize, selling their homes, and have a ton of equity of cash and are able to buy in cash, which is nice in the sense that they don't have to worry quite as much about the interest rates. But then again, we see a lot of the first-time home buyers who are very, very, sensitive to that. So it's kind of seeing both sides. Now, if everyone could afford it, then everyone would be doing it. And that's just not what we're getting right now. So the pool of people able to buy has become smaller.
So let's just do like one tip for buyers, one tip for sellers each. We started with sellers before, so let's start with buyers. My tip to buyers would be to be a discerning one. To be educated on the market, to know your options, know where your opportunities are. I've always thought that in order to recognize a good house, you have to see a bad house and vice versa. It doesn't mean go look at 60, 70 properties and waste your time and turn your brain to mush. But if you're looking at new construction, even if you know you're going to not buy in a specific subdivision, go look at that builder's inventory and compare to the builder you want to work with. really recognize the quality that you want to buy, or what's more important. Maybe it's, hey, if I'm buying at a lower price point and I'm getting a little bit less quality, I understand that because I'm not willing to pay for the higher quality. Really understanding the inventory and what's going on in the market is what allows you to act with confidence in this marketplace. And I'd go back to saying that in the last 30 years, well, just actually 32 years, we've had 5 years of depreciation. Right now, the trend line for home values going up or down in the Portland metro area this year is looking up. Now, we'll see when we get into third quarter how much inventory we have versus how many buyers and what that does with pricing. But even if this year was flat or had a moderate pullback and we had 6 years of declines in 32 years, most buyers want to buy in a year where pricing is getting compressed, not going up by 10%. So be a discerning buyer, understand what's happening in the market, understand the inventory. Don't just work with an agent that's just like constantly a hype squad. Everything's great. Everything's good. Like, know what's happening.
And I would say to piggyback on that for a buyer is going in with your mortgage broker and figuring it. There's a lot of different types of loans out there. All right. And it's basically knowing your options with regards to loans and what makes the most sense for you. You don't have to put 20% down. You don't have to put 5% down. Maybe you think you need to pay off this credit card bill or need to pay off this bill, but that also might, can be counterintuitive with loans. So talking with the professional, so you come in with a game plan and you know what loan you're going to be doing, that's really, really important. And with interest rates changing, you need to be checking in with them. So having that financial, ready to go, that financial piece, which is probably honestly the least fun. No one wants to go in and look at their taxes and figure out, oh, do I need to pay this bill? That's probably the least fun portion, but it's one of the most important, because if you're not prepared there, you could miss out on the right house because you aren't prepared.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's go to sellers. My advice for a seller right now would be to recognize that comparable sales sometimes cannot be duplicated. You can't hang your hat on just the best comp, because a buyer might want to hang their hat on just the worst comp. But if you are thinking about selling, really be in tune and not what just is happening in your exact neighborhood, what's happening in your city, what's happening in the cities where people might cross shop your home, because some people are just so in love with a particular city. And it's an example, a lot of people that buy in Tigard, Walton, Sherwood, Wilsonville would buy in any of the four, unless they have kids where they have to be in one specific area. Most people are pretty open-minded to a pretty large size area. What's happening inside your price point, not just in your neighborhood, but throughout these other cities? What do the comparable sales look like surrounding where you are, not just your exact neighborhood? Really be in tune with your competition. Put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. If you were going to sell your house for $800,000, what's the $700,000 to $900,000 inventory look like? And really be pragmatic about how you think you should be positioned. I think that's a really helpful practice for potential home sellers to do right now to get in tune with the market.
I always offer to home sellers too, when we're staging or we're getting ready or we're trying to figure out pricing, let's go look at some homes. And especially right now, we're seeing a lot of new construction coming to the market. Hey, someone could buy your home, which is a great home, but they could also buy something brand new. So what does that look like, right? Is your location better? Are we staging? Have you put on a new roof? What are those comparisons? Because people do like to go in and see that shiny new, or why should I pay something more for older? Well, how are we going to sell that? So I think it is really important to, one, know your competition and know what's going on in the market. It's also really important to have your agent go over days on market. What can you expect in the price point that you're selling? How long is it going to take? What are we seeing? Because that's one of the things I think that gets most discouraging is when you do list and you don't know when that offer is going to come in and you don't know when to expect it. And you have to really be, I know for me, I was guilty of this. I was selling my house in Sherwood, and the average days on market was 21 days. And I was panicking. I was like, maybe I need to drop the price. Maybe I need to do this. On that 21st day, day 21 exactly, I received multiple offers. And just the day before, I was panicking, thinking I was going to need to drop the price. So really having an idea of what's going on in the market in the average days and having a realtor that can explain that to you is really important. Because if I hadn't known that, I probably would have dropped the price in panic.
Yeah, a lot of people drop the price when no one's been buying in a specific area. Like watching the market is, if I'm on the market and my house hasn't sold, rather than looking at time's just one indicator. Mm-hmm. Did we get passed by for any of my competition?
Yeah.
That is also an important thing to look at when we're looking at pricing. So, well, if you guys have been thinking about buying a house in Portland and you want to get some of those sweet deals that Krista's been talking about, or you guys want to get really prepared for the market so you can have success, we're not listing everyone's house. Some people are saying it's not worth your time to give it a shot right now. It's not your time. Other people, it is their time. If you're wondering if it is your time, if there's an opportunity for you to sell or want to get in touch with us so we can help advise you on that, the best way to get in touch with us is at hello@hillshirerealtygroup.com. If you found this content valuable, we're trying to get back in the routine of doing this. Give us a like and a subscribe so we can get hyped to do it. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.